Welcome everybody to the Bear County Board of Education work session in preparation for our call meeting on December 7th. Appreciate everybody being here. Governor, you guys are live. Can you hear us? Check your head if you can hear. Okay. Ms. Stevens, you'll have the invitation on the pledges next week. We'll approve the minutes. We'll approve the agenda. We're going to talk about some committee reports, maybe starting Clean School walks again after the first of the year. Superintendent will have several recognitions next week. That's always a fun night. A lot of good ones. Very good. We may have some visitors, we may not. No request right now to appear before the board. Dr. Green, you're up.
The communications report is there for you to review, and unless you have questions, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Houston.
We just have our regular invoices to go over. We have our first one, Ushasong LLC from the general fund, $13,588 for the FTE track software. That helps us make sure we're getting enough funding or make sure that the funding that we put into our QBE is sufficient. So the FTE tracker helps us with all of that. That's a really good software that we get every year, and that's district-wide. We also have racial learning from our consolidated funds, $14,305, and that's for 35 classroom rugs at all. There's technology is from the general fund, $15,677.72, and it's firewall license renewal, and that's district-wide. Any questions on this? Thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Paul.
See first if anybody had any questions with the building committee meeting, and had some notes there, pretty big pieces in there. So just want to make sure that we'll have a chance to look at that.
How is it going in the school that the teachers are cleaning? Is that well received?
I think overall it is.
Okay.
I mean, you can go room to room, and if there's differences, but overall we get a lot of help from folks, and I think the kids.
That's right. We talked about the first meeting, delegating it to the.
You're right. Right. They do, and it helps out a lot. So that's been a big help to us, for sure.
Okay.
The number 3, the Mulberry Road property,
Yes,
is that the one that's not developed?
Right.
Doesn't have anything on it right
Right.
now?
Right. We have an item on that a bit later this evening, for the engineer.
Right.
I want to recommend for that. So we get really look at that closely. It's kind of in a nutshell, we got several piece, we're still hurting there, but got several contractors in some of our building that's helping us, teachers and kids are chipping in to help us as well. And we're still looking at some other options. Improve things here, but it's just tough market. As far as capital improvements, we're working our plan at the Innovation Campus Master Plan. I think there's an attachment in there to show you that as well. We're just working the plan. We always talk about our crystal ball, and you know, we can see pretty clearly those first couple of things, and then it gets a little cloudy. New elementary school is, first out of the gate, Bassett 2, and then beyond that, is where it gets a little cloudy, but, we're looking at expanding the middle school program out of Bassett, and maybe pushing out the middle school that we have planned a little bit. And then moving into the fine arts piece, fine arts building, a little further up in the rotation there, if you will. And that would complement Bassett 2 in their fine arts program, as well as our district as a whole. So that's kind of where our focus has shifted a little bit to this. And, you know, we probably need to get some more trailers. You can say the trailer built up to that middle school level. Before we can accumulate some dollars at the state. That's usually how it goes. So we can push that out a year, 2, we'll see. Helps our budget a little bit, number one, but again, the other piece of it is that fine arts Bassett 2. We really like to see a place out there.
Quick question. So, oh, this is great. In terms of Bassett, and I know we have an agenda and a plan, and that's awesome. And I know I sound like a broken record about this, but these athletic fields, what are we doing? How long do we think it's going to be before we do this? Because I know the coaches at Bassett, you know, they're concerned about the fact that they're losing their children that are athletes that are there, they're losing them. And we have kids there that are athletic scholars, you know, they're concerned about that. And I'm concerned too. And I'm also concerned that with the conversations, Lynn and I had this conversation with the burdening on the county, you know, to be relying on them so heavily. They're just really thin, you know, and it's just becoming, I see the growth. I mean, we're talking about trailers, we're talking about more and more kids, and I just see this problem becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And I know when we built Bassett, when you guys kind of had this vision, you know, sports were sort of an afterthought, and I understand that, but of course, here we are, they're here nonetheless. The kids are there, they're playing the sports now, they are there, the coaches are there, the expectation is there. What are we doing? What can we do? What are we doing? What's the time frame?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, you're going to have a pretty terrific cross-country course out there.
That's indeed true.
Yeah, so let's not forget about some of those folks. I know we think sports, we think football, baseball.
Right,
we have
right.
to. Basketball, we're going to have a gym at the elementary school. Again, I know that's not ideal. People, when they think, you know, about a basketball program, if that's in the works for basketball or not, but there'll be a gym on site.
That's okay, right,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Something
Something there and usable.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got a gym right now for practices.
Right.
Things like that, and so does volleyball.
And the rec is using that. I know
Yes.
they're taking advantage of that, but they're having practice over there at 8 and 9 o'clock at night because they are so.
Right, yeah. So there are things like that are being done, and yes, we have to utilize that partnership, with the rec department, for facilities and.
Thank God for them.
Exactly. You know, I think when they do high school, sometimes that comes with it. You know, Wayne High School, that they use the rec department baseball field for years.
Right.
Before they have a complex out there on Highway 11. So it is growing pains. I don't have a good answer for you, really, a concrete answer for you, other than, you know, we need to get ourselves maybe to another SPOS with some additional funding before we can.
I think I'm afraid because I hear that a lot, you know, that when this high school was built or that high school was built, but I think when this high school or that high school was built, we weren't experiencing the boom of growth that we are experiencing now. And I'm afraid that we are going to continue to experience, you know, in the near future. It's almost debilitating, the rate of growth. It's not almost, it is debilitating. Thank you.
And so just to finish up on that piece, We want to continue our renovations in the state-funded projects as well as non-state funded areas. And kind of the segue to that SPOS conversation, we need to get our expert Tom Owens out at some point here in the not too distant future, again, talking with him about funding options, levels, things like that, that we're gonna feel comfortable with moving forward to accommodate growth and our existing needs. So we had a good meeting. Appreciate the committee getting together and talking through those items with us. Then just an update on our construction projects. The new elementary school is coming right along. I got the master pond expanded to this full size. Building pad, the elementary school. Very good progress being made out there. The retaining walls out there, it's a slow process, but they're steady at it. Putting that out of the ground. Yeah, that's just going to allow us to utilize a bit of that space that we can out there. And our bus shop improvements also come along quite well. Again, these pictures of the new elementary and the transportation shop, they were taken before Thanksgiving, so they've got all the ceiling grid in, they've got lights in, they're gonna be dropping in the HVAC diffusers here soon, and they've got painting done, tile in the restrooms. I mean, it's really moving right along. So we're excited about that. I don't point out, back up, sorry, so jump around. We've also got a spreadsheet that just kind of gives you a summary of the project. Yeah, thanks. Whether it's in design or construction or, what's even further out than that. I know we come in here and we recommend architects, engineers, guarantee maximum price, and all these different things. And we just want to kind of get that summarized for you and put it in one spot and continue to keep that updated, share it, and figure out, but just so you kind of see where we've been and where we're headed. On our report.
Any questions for Joe? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Joe.
Dr. Moulton.
Good evening. We have two reports from teaching and learning. Mrs. Royal is going to share the first update regarding how the proceeds from the Georgia lottery have benefited our pre-K program.
Good evening. Dr. McMichael received an email from Carrie Gill Wilder. She's the Community Relations Director with the Georgia Lottery Corporation. And she was sharing with us some of the lottery information. I think y'all have a handouts there, and Suzanne can pull those up as well. But I wanted to share with you, because when he sent it to me, my wheels started spinning, and I thought, oh, this would be a good opportunity to share with you kind of how pre-K is in Barry County, because we have, our system has the pre-K classrooms, but there's also private providers that have pre-K classrooms. And so all of us together is collectively have received funding from this. But I just wanted to read something to you from her email that she said that Georgia Lottery had the most profitable year since its inception in 1993, with the largest transfer to education in history. The lottery raised a record $1.54 billion in profit for Hope and pre-K programs this past year. So that just kind of tells you a little bit there about how good things have been and how well they are going. But the sheet that you have that looks like this is called the county analysis sheet. That'll give you the breakdown from 1994 to 2002. That's how much Barry County has received for Hope scholarships and how many students. And then also for pre-K, you can see there, 13,011 students have benefited in pre-K since 1994 in our county, and the dollar amounts there. And then you have another sheet that kind of looks like this. This is the infographic that they sent us. This is actually overall for the whole state. They give you all the information about all the different things that they provide assistance for. All right, so the most important thing I want to share with you is what Suzanne has pulled up right now, and it looks like this. Is your other sheet that you have. This is the Bear County information. 1,505 students from Bear County participating in the Hope Grant Scholarship. This is in 2001, so this would have been last year's students. In that program, receiving $6 billion. I can't even read my glasses. Sorry. Receiving 6,072,176 in lottery dollars, and serving 657 pre-K students. And then pre-K received the 3,212,339 in lottery dollars, and then you can see the total there of the 9 was returned to Bear County. So I wrote that down for us by the school system. We have 18 pre-K classes, and they're at 9 locations. And then we ended the year, last year, we had 396 slots available that have been funded by Right from the Start, and we were at 386. And last year was a tough year. Usually toward the end of the year, we had some kids who dropped out. And so that was why you see that we were down about 10 slots. That was about typical. If you look over with the other pre-K providers, they have 15 classes at 8 locations. And those are spread out throughout Bear County. And they ended the year at 271 students, and they had 330 slots. All right. So looking at the funding, there's the funding breakdown there for you, how much we received in Barrow and how much Bear County. That was our budget for pre-K, where it says BCSS pre-K received $1,911,528.01. And that included the bonuses for our teachers. And with that, and then you can see what the other providers had there. But the 21-22 data I wanted to share with you because things are looking better. Right now we have 726 slots contracted from Right from the Start for both Bear County School System and the private providers. And currently we have 51 spots available. So before last year, we had about 69 slots. So the number is going down about how many kids that we're able to serve. And we still have some open slots. We only have 4 open slots right now. Some of those happened right before the break. So Karen who works with me, Karen Bedford, has been busy calling next one's on the waiting list and trying to get those slots filled for us. We've had some schools that we've exhausted their waiting list. And so what we do is we go to schools nearby, but then we have to offer parents to provide their own transportation in order to go there for their pre-K year. So just wanted to share that information with you and kind of give you that breakdown. And then there's some more lottery information at the bottom. If y'all have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you for that. Any questions?
And secondly, I welcome Dr. Beeland to the podium. He's going to give us some visuals about our recent Cognia visit. We received details verbally, but we also have recently received the written report, so he has some slides and some information to share.
Good evening. It's good to be back with you again for the 3rd occasion to talk about Cognia, 3rd and final time to talk about Cognia. So I want to share some information about the visit. If you'll go ahead and go to the next slide, Cindy. Just to kind of give you go back in time and review kind of what happened. The visiting team conducted our virtual review on October the 18th through the 20th. And there were several things that they looked at, our processes, programs, practices. The superintendent wrote an executive summary that they reviewed. They looked at the domain narratives for the leadership domain, the learning domain, and the resources domain. We did a self-assessment, including how we rated ourselves on the standards. They looked at that. They looked at survey results from students, parents, and teachers. And they looked at the evidence we provided in the form of documentation and artifacts. Included in that was some student achievement data analysis that we did. and as well as presentations, meeting minutes, handbooks, manuals, etc. They also reviewed the responses from interviews. They interviewed 215 stakeholders across the district. And you see all of the groups there that included. They were very complimentary on the high participation rate that we had from our interviews and having so many of our folks show up. And that was because I kept calling them until the next So the next slide, what does Cognia do with all of this information? If you'll recall, there were 31 standards that were rated on there in leadership. There's 11, there's 12 in learning, and there's 8 in resource capacity. And they look at those 5 different ways. They look at the extent to which there's engagement within the district for each of the standards. They look at how far along we have implemented the things that we've been working on and how well we've implemented them. They look at how we measure results. And in that, they determine from the results what the likelihood is that the things that we're doing are sustainable and well embedded into our practices. So that's what they looked at. So how did we do? All right, so let's go to the next slide, and you'll see that there are 4 different criteria or ratings that you can receive related to the Cognia, the 31 Cognia standards. So obviously we didn't want to see any red. That identifies areas with insufficient evidence or evidence that indicated little or no activity. However, it's not unusual for a district to receive maybe 1 or 2 marks in the red area. Under yellow, it represents areas to enhance or extend our current improvement efforts. And it's certainly not unusual out of 31 standards, I would say probably for a district to receive, you know, somewhere between 5 and 7 yellow marks on your report. So the benchmark or the kind of the expected performance level is actually green, which pinpoints quality practices that are improving and demonstrating that we're meeting the standards. And then the highest rating that you can receive on the 31 standards is blue. And that demonstrates noteworthy practices producing clear results that positively impact the institution. So we're going to start with leadership. There are 11 standards in leadership, and these are the first 6 because that's all I could get to fit on the slide. And as you will notice, and this is a real credit to your work as a board and the leadership that we have at the central office and in our schools, that we received the highest rating on the first 6 standards there. So I'm not going to read each of those to you, but I will bring your attention to the fact, again, that they rate us according to the level of engagement throughout the district that is in place. That's the EN that you see there, the level of implementation, the results, the way we measure results, how sustainable that particular standard is, and how well it's embedded in the district. So they take those 5 scores and then they discuss as a visiting team what rating they want to give us on a scale of 1 through 4. So we see we can got all 4s, all impacting on the first 6 standards there. So hopefully you had a chance to look over those. We'll go to the final 5 standards in the leadership capacity. And you'll notice that we got a perfect report card in the leadership domain. So that is very unusual. It's not something I've seen in the different ones that I've been affiliated with over the last 27 years or so. So a lot of great stuff going on in terms of leadership. And again, that's not just things that we said, but that's in talking with our parents, with our students, and our teachers. They interviewed a lot of different groups. You'll recall they interviewed the counselors, instructional coaches, media specialists, large number of groups. Let's move on to the learning capacity domain, and I'm going to start with the first 4 that are in there. You'll notice that all of those are improving, which is the expected level of performance. And I'll give you a chance to kind of look at some of those and read those before we go to the next one. Learning culture promotes creativity, innovation, and collaborative problem solving. Formal structures for learners to develop positive relationships with and have adult peers that support their educational experiences. So that was very good to see. We'll move to the final one. This, I apologize for the size of this one. It's a little bit small. I hope y'all can see it on your screens. These are the final standards in the learning capacity. And you'll notice, starting with 2.7, that we had a lot of impacting there as well. And so I think what this speaks to is that they recognize a lot of the hard work that has been put into ensuring that our students are getting a good education. And in some places, they felt like we've reached level 4. We know that we still have work that we want to do. We would have loved to have seen all blue here, which would have been pretty incredible, but that's a pretty impressive report for learning capacity. And it's one that I think a lot of districts would love to have. The final area is resource capacity. These are the first of the two. These are 2 of the first 8 standards in this one. And you'll notice that once again, we reached the impacting level with these first 2 standards. And these relate to professional learning. So we were very pleased. We worked very hard on delivering quality professional learning, making sure it was job embedded and it was benefiting teacher ability to improve instruction in the classroom. So we were very excited to see that all of our stakeholders felt like our professional learning was moving in a very positive direction. On the final 6 standards, you'll see that it's mostly, once again, the highest level of impacting, with a couple of exceptions that were at the improving level. Just kind of let you look over those for just a second. One of the areas, that has been brought to the forefront with COVID is digital resources and integrating those into teaching, learning, and operations to improve professional practice. We've gained a lot of ground, actually, out of necessity. We had to, but a lot of promising practices have been put into place with digital resources. So we were very proud to see that we were at the improving level with that, because we had to move quickly. We had to do a lot of professional learning and work hard to get folks feeling good about their instruction with digital resources. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. I just want to show you what the overall ratings once again look like. In the leadership, we have all 11 were in the impacting range. In learning, we had 7 in the improving and 5 in the impacting. Resource, it was 2 and 6, for a total of 9 out of the 31 that were improving and 22 that were in the impacting. When we rated ourselves, I just thought you might find this interesting. We actually rated ourselves 18. We actually had, I think that shouldn't equal 32 right there. It should equal 29. Is that right? Yeah. That's because we rated ourselves a few 2s when we did our self-assessment. And 18 in the improving category, 11 in the impacting. Fortunately, the team does not just adopt the ratings that we rate ourselves, but we think one of the reasons why we receive such positive results is because we're harder on ourselves than other folks are. And I think that results in quality when you have such high standards for your work. So one thing that the team does is give you an IEQ, that's the Index of Educational Quality. It's on a scale of 100 to 400. Below 250 is pretty sad. If you get below 250, you got to really work hard at not doing some things to get that low score. But you see the descriptions there. 225 to 300 indicates that the district has several standards within an improved level and is using results to inform continuous improvement and demonstrate sustainability. That's where you'll see most districts score in that range. And then above 275 indicates that the institution is beginning to reach the impact level and is engaged in practices that are sustained over time and are becoming ingrained in the culture of the institution. So we will go to the next slide. This is the one I'm most excited to share with you. In 21-22, our Barrow score, our IQ was 349.19 out of 400 points. The network average, by the way, is 278 to 283. If you look to the left, the last time that Advanced Ed was here, they're now called Cognia, but they were Advanced Ed at the time. The Barrow average score was 276.02 and the network average was 278.94. So we're actually 2 points below the network average the last time the accreditation team visited us and took a look at what we're doing. So obviously we felt like we've done a lot of improving over the last 5 years, 5 to 7 years especially. And it was just very validating for the visiting team to see some of the same things that we felt like we were moving in a positive direction. So it's a big shift from -2 to plus 69 points, 69 above the average. So we did receive some commendations, and so I want to go over those with you just real quickly. Obviously, they were impressed with the leadership that is throughout the school system here, that is dedicated and focused, and there's a clear direction and commitment to the school's continuous improvement. And we have worked very hard to put a lot of continuous improvement processes in place. So they were very complimentary of those, and we were very excited that they recognized those and that our stakeholders could speak to them. We don't do any prep with the folks that get interviewed, and so for them to be able to recognize and be knowledgeable of and share that with the team was very validating. They also felt like there was meaningful stakeholder engagement and intentional communication efforts, that we have strategic resource management and long-range planning and wise use of resources. You saw a lot of that Mr. Perno was just sharing with you on our long-range plan for facilities. And also that the system has implemented instructional framework, and we're probably doing more work on the instructional framework this year than we've ever done before. That's still a work in progress, but we've made great strides over the last 5 years. And I'm just excited about where we're about to go with that work. We've been doing a lot in that area. And also monitoring and adjusting our instructional practices. I mentioned before about our instructional rounds process, where we're going in and observing instruction, both district teams and school teams, and looking at what are the areas of instruction that we need more resources, professional learning, and they were very impressed with that. Well, you don't get through a Cognia visit without some growth areas. So they always leave you something to work on. And they indicated that there is a documented need to refine the robust, developmentally appropriate curriculum. They took that from our language, from our strategic plan. And this is actually in our strategic plan. It's one of the areas that we're gonna work on. Dr. McMichael and I talked about a lot of the areas there were no surprises in the growth areas. These were areas that we had already identified that we needed to improve on. So that was good also to know that we are knowledgeable of the areas that have gone well, but also very knowledgeable about the areas that we're continuing to work toward improvement. In that area, they had two specific comments that they want us to continue to provide support to teachers for newly implemented instructional programs. That makes sense. Our largest instructional programs that have been implemented have been done so within the last couple of years. You may have heard that there's been an ongoing pandemic recently, and that has kind of slowed some of our progress with some of our curriculum initiatives and instructional programs that we put in place. So we know that there's still work to do there, but we have a plan in place instead of encouraging these. And this year, with students being back in place and us being able to focus on those programs and provide support, and us being able to get back in front of the staff to provide them with professional learning and support, we've made great strides this year. So we're very encouraged about the direction we're going with the implementation of our instructional programs. And the second item that they looked at was the encourage the use of a systematic process to ensure the written curriculum is aligned to a rigorous set of standards. Well, that's just true. That first part is just true. So I actually highlighted the second part, which states that it's implemented with quality and fidelity. And that's always a challenge, to get the same level of quality and fidelity in every single classroom. But that is our goal, and that is what we're working toward. And they also recognize that. So one other growth area that they gave us was, even with the focus that we've been doing on continuous improvement, that we lack some formalized processes and procedures. And they actually identified 3 in particular. They want us to work to establish consistency across grade levels with initiatives that cultivate positive relationships. That came from their interviews with folks at the elementary school. We have 9 elementary schools, as you know, and they didn't feel like the staff could speak to consistency of formalized adult advocacy structures across all the elementary schools. And the reason why is because our elementary schools and all of our schools, quite frankly, are focused on adult advocacy, but we do not have a consistent program across all the schools that they would be able to speak to. So they would like to see a little bit more consistency in what we're doing to provide adult advocacy for students, such as mentoring and those types of things. Additionally, they felt like limited data was shared on the effectiveness of many of our advocacy and relationship building programs. So we have been focusing once again a lot on SEL, and each school was allowed to choose which programs that they wanted to use. So you'll hear some using set of mindsets and there are a variety of others that they are using, but we have not, and this statement is accurate as far as I know, collected any data to determine how effective those programs are. And then the final one was common grading practices across various schools was a topic that came up with some of the interviews and some of the documentation that they reviewed. So next steps, we've got our exit report, and that's what I've shared with you tonight, our formal report. We will begin the process now that we have shared this information with you, which we wanted to do first, to review and share these findings with our other stakeholders. We'll make sure that all this information is posted and publicly available. And then we'll begin right away developing plans to address areas that they identified that needed improvement. Quite frankly, I think all of those are already reflected in our new strategic plan, as well as our plans for school improvement. We'll use the findings and the data from the report to guide and strengthen our institution's continuous improvement efforts, celebrate success, and continue on in our improvement journey. So any questions that you might have, while you're thinking about that, I do want to take one quote from the report that I felt like was pretty much summed up a lot of their feelings about our district as a result of their visit. And it says, at the center of success for Barrow County school system are the following: a dedicated and determined leadership team with a laser focus on continuous improvement, meaningful stakeholder engagement, and intentional communication efforts, implementation of an instructional framework that effectively meets the specialized needs of all learners, and strategic resource management that includes long-range planning and wise use of human and physical resources aligned to system needs and priorities. So that is the report. I'm sorry that was a little bit lengthy, but I wanted to try to give you a good view of the results of our visit from Cognia. Obviously, we're very excited with the results, but we still know, and Dr. Mike and I also talked about this, there's still a lot of work ahead. Still a lot to do, but you can't help but be excited that we performed so well, knowing what we have, where we're at, and our plans for the future, and what we're going to be able to do for kids. It's a pretty exciting time to be working in the Barrow County school system. Any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Booth, do we have a time frame for formalizing our procedures for mentoring?
So what they do is typically they come every 5 years and they give us, as far as what they expect, and then I'll talk internally about what we expect.
Right.
So their expectation is before they come back in 5 years, in 2.5 years, they typically do a review of the progress that we have made on the areas that they noted for improvement. So 2.5 years would be when they would expect that we would have made some progress in that. And I think that's probably a fair timeline for us as well, to be honest with you, with all of our current initiatives going on within the next 2 years to have made some progress on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Once again, Dr. Beal, I want to congratulate and thank you and your team for all the hard work. I know you prepared a lot, and I think that has a lot to do with the results, because we were well prepared and we were ready for the visit. So
I appreciate you saying that. I've worked in 3 districts. This is my 7.5 year here, and I don't know that I've not worked with more talented, dedicated professionals than I have in Barrow County. It's an amazing team to be a part of. And anytime we have anything major like this or anything else, everybody just really jumps in and supports each other. And that's a great atmosphere to work in.
thank you.
Yes.
There's not really a question. I guess it's gonna be more of a statement. I think Lynn and I were probably the only board members that were currently serving when we went through the last, I think it was SACS accreditation back in the day. And to see the improvement that the district has made, I live my pom-poms at home. I mean, if this doesn't get you excited about the education process and our school system, I don't know what it will take. One of the things that I underlined was 2.9, and it says the system implements processes to identify and address the specialized needs of learners. For me, that just sort of encapsulates what we're all about. And, you know.
And it's challenging. That's one of the most challenging things.
Yes.
That you don't see that a lot of times.
And that's what we're about. And if I started naming names, I'd leave somebody out. To the leadership, to the teachers, everybody that works with students needs to be a part of it, needs to feel very good about the job they've done so far. Now we've got some things to work on, and just keep on keeping on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is the newspaper here?
Unfortunately
Just
not, but we will, I
They're
think,
probably on Facebook.
They may be watching.
YouTube.
I don't want to speak for Dr. Mike, but I think we've got a great plan for getting this information out to the public.
Oh, we do.
Well, I know there's some moms watching, and if we failed, y'all be talking about it on Facebook, so we need to be talking about this on Facebook.
Yeah, and what Mr. Bailey was saying, to me, that's what Barrel Bold is all about,
Yeah.
building our learning differently. And every child's different, every teacher's different. We can never lose sight of that piece. And I think really that's a lot of what they saw when they came to view what we were doing, was that piece of it being throughout everything. And, you know, of course we have things to work on. If we didn't have anything to work on, I'd be pretty worried. But that is, like David said, I got into administration through working with SACS 25 years ago now, 26. Maybe 27. And I've never seen a report this positive and this strong. So I just cannot tell everyone involved, one, with putting it together, but two, and maybe even more so, just that everyone in the classrooms and in the buildings, working with kids and supporting those that work with kids. This is the proof of the pudding. This is what, you know, this is an outside entity that comes in and rates us, that actually, to me, has some clout and some meaning, unlike, you know, sometimes, as you've all heard me say ad nauseum, you know, random test scores, but this is a good deep dive into what we're doing. And anyone that wants to get out there and say that Barrow County is not up there with the top schools in the state or in the Southeast or in the nation, they're just ill-informed at this point. Because here's the proof.
We're gonna ask them to see their comment.
This is a group that doesn't, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, they're going to call you on it.
That's right.
And we've seen that in other places before. And, you know, it just means if you still feel that way after taking a look through some of this, then you need to come talk with somebody and see what's really going on, because you're just not informed the way you need to be, what's going on. Our teachers and everyone that supports them have just do amazing things for our students and our community. And again, those blues and greens you see in there, that's them. That's those folks that are out there teaching every day, and all of those that support what they're doing. And it's one of the proudest moments of my career when I saw that I knew we had a good one coming, but when I saw that, I told you sure this isn't a draft or something that's, and you all have a copy, I believe, of the hard copy of it with all the details in your folders. But,
What was the first number again? I was going to
Really
write it
strong.
down. We went from 2016 to
276.
276.
I'll be honest with you. I
349.
to 340.
know we took that first visit, when we got our report, it hit us hard. It really hit us hard. I thought maybe they were a little too critical, even though I knew we had several areas that were moving in the right direction.
but there were also some very strong commendations in that.
There were.
too,
There were.
So, you know, that's.
But that hit us hard, and we took it personally. And it wasn't that we weren't working hard before, but I think we got very laser focused in our efforts, you know, to one of the biggest areas that they asked us to focus on last time was using data all the way down to the classroom level to make sure we're meeting individual students' needs. And that's one of the areas that we excelled on this time. And so we were very excited and appreciate all the hard work that Ms. Persinger and her team have put in to.
And it just shows
making sure
too,
teachers are trained and know
you
how to
make
use
the
it.
plan and you stick to the plan.
Mhm.
And, you know, sometimes it's tough because you want to jump and say, here's the silver bullet, or here's this, or here's that. But no, make the plan, stick to the plan. And I know those of you that have been here a while have heard me say, look at the trend data, not the month to month or the year to year. Look at the trends. And we've seen it work. And so, yeah, just really exciting time to be working for that thing. And oh, by the way, we had a pandemic in the middle of it too. So congratulations to everyone. That was something for our community to really be proud of.
No coincidence that our primary logo colors are blue and green as well.
Hey, there you go.
Mhm.
There you go.
All right, did you have anything else? Okay, great news.
She's like, that's
Ms.
all.
Beggs, you're doing multi-tasking tonight? Okay, we'll see you later. We're gonna move on to new business. Consent agenda items, Dr. Wood.
Good evening. So tonight I come before you again to ask for us to be able to move forward with some professional learning and supplies. SIMS and BASA utilize a program called Project Lead the Way, which is comprised of modules for middle schools and high schools. The program includes in-depth professional learning that the teachers go through to be able to then teach the modules in the classroom, and then the supplies that go with teaching of the modules. And we offer this in 6th through 8th, Project Lead the Way for computer science, engineering, biomedical science. And the superintendent recommends authorizing the purchase of items to include professional development for healthcare, engineering, computer science, and STEM programs from Project Lead the Way, a sole source provider of supplies and resources and professional development. We need to purchase some supplies from Project Lead the Way this year totaling $17,259, with the addition of some professional development costing around $12,000, for a total cost of $29,259. Yes, $59. And this is paid out of CTAE, Perkins 5, and local CTAE funds. Any questions? Thank you.
Consent agenda? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. Ms. Beggs.
Good evening. We have two calendars to bring forward to you tonight. The 2022-23 and the 2023-24 calendars are there for you to review. We started this process in October with a survey that was sent out publicly for comment. That was posted for several weeks. We got those results back. They are also posted for your review. We took the results of the survey and came up with two calendars. Those calendars were then sent out to every school's SGT, and the school's SGTs reviewed them during the month of November. I think there are still maybe two schools that we're reviewing this week. But the results, the feedback that we got from the SGTs was that overwhelmingly they liked the calendars as they were. They all had some healthy discussion about the inclusion of 2 digital days in each calendar and exactly what that would look like. They were in favor of it, but discussed that the challenge will be in the details. And so we have included those, but with the recognition that we will work on some details. So those are the two calendars that we bring forward to you tonight. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I have a question. How many actual days of learning are our students getting in these calendars?
There are 176 full days and then 2 digital days. So 178 total student days.
Okay. And the digital days, we're still in the process of refining what those are gonna be. Is that right?
We know which dates they will be, but the details of how that will roll out will come later on, as particularly as IT and teaching and learning work on the professional development for teachers and for parents.
Okay, thank you.
Consent agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Earl?
We have 3 items tonight. First is an engineer for our Mulberry Road property. We're asking the superintendent to recommend approval of grade level land planning, serve as a civil engineer on this project. This would be for development of 43.5 acres of property owned by the school system there at Mulberry Road. Grade level land planning has worked for us on a number of projects, and they've done a fine job for us on each of those. Most recently, the Innovation Campus Master Plan, West Side Middle Edition, and a number of years ago at Bethlehem and County Line. They submitted proposals in 2017 along with other engineers, and they scored extremely well on that, and their fees remain the same as they were 4 years ago. The financial impact would be 3.5% of the site grading or site cost. And by working with a civil engineer directly and not through an architect for the site development piece, we're able to save 1.5% in markup cost. So once we have a site number established, then we would apply the 3.5% to that to come up with their cost. The rationale for this is that we're growing rapidly, as we discussed earlier, and so we're just trying to get out ahead of this as much as we can and look at utilizing the resources that we have. So the engineer will look at the soil out there, and what type of school, what size school would fit out there. We know an elementary school would, perhaps a middle, but we need to look closer at that and get that process started.
Questions?
Originally out of Atlanta, but they've got a couple of satellite offices, including one in Bishop. So they're close by. Kendall likes to pay them a visit every now and then, sit down with them, talk with them.
Consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, and
Okay.
mobile purchases.
Continue on with the growth theme here. Single wide mobile purchases. We're asking the superintendent to recommend approval of modular solutions, the purchase of 8 new single wide mobile classroom units. We received 3 proposals for mobile units, and this company, Modular Solutions, upcoming, provided the most responsive and responsible proposal. Financial impact is $600,000 with SPLOST as the funding source. And the rationale is, we're growing, yes, but our existing mobile units, we're just not able to keep up with that growth with all the units that we have out there right now. So it's necessary for us to purchase these 8 units.
The first one, how we are able to fulfill students, how does that work?
So the state looks at our growth over the previous 5 years, and they just do a mathematical calculation of what that growth is as an average over that span. And that's how they determine what our growth is.
So the true growth is over that number, you just, that's the way.
Yeah.
So if there's no big economic boom, there's no like way you can ask for some type of specialty look? Is there no way?
The
How does
state,
it work?
yeah, the state used to have different types of growth, depending on how fast you were growing, or, if you were a smaller system or larger, and now it's regular growth. And so right now, we're showing a surplus of 3 middle school classrooms, a surplus of 10 elementary school classrooms. We have 19 mobiles at Yargo, 12 at Kennedy. But the state recognizes it as a surplus of 10. They don't look at districting and how we separate and spread out our schools. They don't look at pre-K. They don't acknowledge that at the elementary school level. So sounds like I'm picking on the state, but actually I think Georgia is far and away better than any state, certainly close to us in funding for schools. So we've got a pretty good deal, but you have to have trailers out there. You have to really be, showing that growth to accumulate those dollars.
I'm sorry for getting down that bad, but I think it's important for us, not only the citizens of our county to understand that we're not excited about those.
No.
It's the hand we've been dealt. Since I've been on the board, it's been this way. I wish I could find a way to this.
I know.
We're not really very happy to bring it to you for consideration.
More necessary evils.
Yeah, it's just the way, yeah, it is. And Joe, one of the good points is the, pre-K, they don't count those as being used, but it's just more, of course, we're gonna do it. It's what's right for kids and right for families, but that throws a wrench for sure. And you can't bus kids from, over near Sims to county line either, it just doesn't work, so. Now the growth being kind of condensed in that area, Kennedy and Yargo were, and really Bethlehem now are probably the main recipients, and then trying to get ready for Auburn, which is, if you saw that, there's an article in the AJC today that was an eye opener, if you saw that.
Yep.
I'm not sure where we're gonna put those kids yet. When they come, well, we're about out of, we're landlocked too. It's gonna be something we're gonna have to really move on, and that's why we want to go ahead with the Mulberry Road so we can start shifting those things around.
When is our next review? We do it every year.
Every year. Yeah.
But they're looking at a rolling
They're
average.
looking at it.
Yeah, it's a rolling average, and we had, a couple of years that we didn't have that much growth, that we're still in.
The growth is coming. It's not.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we've
Coming
got
a lot faster than 5 years.
Yeah, unfortunately, basically the old adage is you can't build on projections.
right.
But we basically don't have a choice but to build. We can't wait
And that's
on
why you
the
see
budget.
so many, especially, you've always seen in like when they had those type of areas, they'll open a new school and already have portables at the school when they open it sometimes, and that's why. You just
And it-
the buildings gets to a point where it's going much quicker than the funding numbers come match it. So it's been a challenge forever.
We're going to utilize our state funds. We're going to continue to reach in that pot for renovations and new classrooms. We'll get our money, but yeah, it doesn't always stack up like you think it might. Right. But if we can get to 2023 with a new elementary, then we'll have some of those existing ones that are out there to draw back on. So it's a bit of a shell game.
Consent agenda, everybody? Yes. Good.
always doing their money and doing money and talking about trailers.
Yeah, that's where we are. Yeah. Okay, so our final item this evening in operations is for renovations to our professional development center. We're asking the superintendent to recommend a stated cost limitation of $250,000 for renovations to the Barrow County Schools Professional Development Center. Just last month, the board approved Charles Black Construction as construction manager for non-state funded projects to address needs throughout the system, including this building. Stated cost limitation would be $250,000 with SPLOST as the funding source. The rationale for this is, we look to renovate our buildings after a 20-year period, some maybe a little year or two more than that, but generally speaking, 20 years. It's hard to believe, but we've reached that mark here. And we can't just shut this building down and renovate it in the summer like we would a school. So we have to sort of go at this in pieces. And I look at lights as somewhat like low-hanging fruit. With retrofit kits, you can come in and knock this out quickly with little to no impact to the building occupants. And you can get, a pretty good bang for your buck on energy savings, as well as improving the light level. So that's the biggest piece of this, but there are also pieces in here you'll see for converting some cubicle space to office spaces in the business services and student services areas. And this is for privacy and confidentiality and that sort of thing. That's something that we would try to grab up, do some of this in the winter when the impact is a little bit less in HR, and then try to grab some of it in the summer when it's a little bit less of an impact in student services.
Questions? Consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ms. Houston.
Right, so Joe is going to be working on, where are we at, Bramlett and Kennedy this summer. So that means that they're going to be getting new furniture because their furniture is over 20 years old. So the superintendent recommends accepting the highlighted price per line item on the attached bid tabulation sheets to refresh classroom, office, and cafeteria furniture at Kennedy Elementary and Bramlett Elementary during their renovations over the summer. Total cost will be approximately $676,677. We are also asking for a contingency of 10% for adjustments in the quantity and permission to go to the next lowest bid if timeliness of delivery becomes an issue. So the total is $744,345 out of ELOS capital project funds. We had 10 vendors respond to the bid. Selection was made on each line item using best price, most durable product, uniformity of products, and timeliness of delivery. And we talked about the total cost. Any questions? Kind of looked at these costs compared to our bid for Yargo furniture back in June of 2019, and it's sad. It's anywhere from 15 to 44% increase from where we were back then.
Shortages, back orders.
Oh, yeah, they said, that's why we're going to ask you to vote on this tonight to get ahead of it as we can. But on the bid, it says you have to deliver by, I forgot what Judy put in there, July something. And they all said that they could. But some people have.
Trying to give them as much lead
truthful
time as we
about it.
can.
To that point, we're going to ask for a motion at the end of the meeting tonight to try to expedite that for you. Okay. And you have one more?
Got one more. So we also have the pods that we approved, I think at the last meeting out at BASA. The superintendent recommends accepting the highlighted price per line item on the attached bid tabulation sheets for classroom furniture for BASA pods. Total cost $151,452.71, paid out of ELOS capital project funds. A request for bid was issued for classroom furniture to furnish the pod classroom area at BASA. 11 vendors responded. Recommendations are based on best price, most durable product, uniformity of products, and timeliness of delivery and comparability with the current furnishings at BASA.
So that fancy furniture is going to look real interesting in the trailer.
I think you'll be surprised though with the way the the pod, as we're calling it, will look. It's going to be more building like.
And again, we'll ask for you to
We're gonna vote on
approve
this
this tonight,
tonight,
so we can
too.
get ahead of it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Okay, that being said, we're gonna move into executive session now, to discuss or deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer or employee, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.